So you were in that room, you heard the candidates. The vote is expected to take place tomorrow. How are you going to vote?
I'm going to vote for Kevin McCarthy.
Didn't Kevin McCarthy just say that he did not want even his supporters, yourself included, to nominate him?
No, I'm not. No, I don't think he's going to be nominated. I'm still going to vote for him, though. I mean, I can always write in his name, and I expect that other members of Congress will do the same. But I have stated very publicly that this wasn't the right thing to do. And after listening to both candidates, their plan for the future includes continuing resolutions, which is exactly what Kevin McCarthy was going to do. So supposedly, Kevin McCarthy was removed for about the same plan that both Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, have laid out. Look,
I'm wearing the scarlet letter after the week that I just had last week, being a woman up here and being demonized for my vote and for my voice. I'm here to let the rest of the world know and the country know I'm on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the establishment, and I'm going to do the right thing every single time, no matter the consequences, because I don't answer to anybody in D.C. I don't answer to anyone in Washington. I only answer to the people. Thank you.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about an update to the GOP House Speaker race, as it looks like the GOP has decided who they're going to nominate to be the next Speaker of the House. Now, again, this comes after Kevin McCarthy was ousted after Matt Gaetz decided that Kevin McCarthy should be vacated as Speaker because Kevin McCarthy did not sufficiently live up to his promises that he made to the Freedom Caucus that was a part of an agreement to make him Speaker in the first place. And also, Kevin McCarthy worked with Democrats in order to keep the government open. Allegedly, according to Matt Gaetz, that was the main reason that he decided to motion to vacate Kevin McCarthy, in which Democrats, along with 7 or 8 Republicans, decided to vote to oust Kevin McCarthy. So now it's been a week since that happened, and Republicans just had a closed-door meeting where they voted on who they think should be the next Speaker of the House. Now, the race was between Jim Jordan, who was endorsed by President Trump, and he is a favorite of the Freedom Caucus. I think that most of the American people probably would want Jim Jordan. He would be the pick. He's the guy that I would like to see. And the other guy that was running was Steve Scalise. Okay, now Steve Scalise is the leader of the Republican Party in the House. He's the majority leader. Okay, he wasn't the Speaker. He was the majority leader. Two different things. And those are the two candidates that decided to run. Now, after deliberation behind closed doors, it looks like the Republicans have decided to nominate Steve Scalise as the nominee for Speaker of the House. Now, the vote was 113 to 99. Now, I want to go ahead and play Steve Scalise's response to being nominated, and then we're going to get into some of the backlash that is already coming out from the GOP against Steve Scalise being the nominee. Take a look.
First, I want to thank my House Republican colleagues for just designating me as the Speaker. Obviously, we still have work to do. We're going to have to go upstairs on the House floor and resolve this and then get the House opened again. We have a lot of work to do, not just in the House for the people of this country, but we see how dangerous of a world it is and how things can change so quickly. We need to make sure we're sending a message to people all throughout the world that the House is open and doing the people's business, making sure that we're unequivocally standing in our first resolution that we pass under Speaker Steve Scalise will be to make it clear that we stand with Israel. The McCall-Meeks resolution will be our first order of business. But obviously there's a lot more work to do. The conversations we've been having with my colleagues over the last few days leading up to this show that there's a resolve that we need to get back to work. There's a lot of business to take care of. Families are struggling across this country. We passed a lot of legislation to help families get back on track, to address our border crisis, to get our economy moving again, to address the spending in Washington that's driving inflation, high energy costs. All of those bills that we've passed and that we're going to continue to pass that are sitting over in the Senate need to be taken up We've passed over 70% of the bills to fund the government, dealing with appropriations and setting the priorities of this nation's spending, and the Senate has taken up zero. The Senate has to start doing their work. And by the way, in that legislation, including the State and Foreign Ops Bill, the Defense Appropriations Bill, includes funding for Israel, things like Iron Dome, precision-guided missiles, things that could be used today to help them in this war.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. There's some things that Steve Scalise said there that I really like, for example, making the Senate take up bills, conservative bills that Republicans have already passed. I mean, that's basically the only way for us to actually get our agenda pushed forward, okay? I have been very, very, very adamant about Republicans being louder about what they're actually doing, the bills that they're passing in the House that Democrats refuse to take up. I think they should definitely do more of that. But some of the other things I'm seeing in regards to priorities for funding foreign countries, other countries, not ours, again, I just got questions about, okay? And the reason why is because Steve Scalise, again, there's a reason why he got the most votes. He's much closer to Kevin McCarthy than somebody like Jim Jordan, okay? And, you know, in the past, he has been adamant about funding foreign countries and protecting their borders over ours.
President Zelensky just gave an incredibly powerful address to Congress. And I think people got to see once again what we've been seeing for weeks, and that is just why President Zelensky is inspiring the people of Ukraine and people all around the world who are rallying behind these strong, incredibly tough people during a brutally difficult invasion by Putin. When President Zelensky showed that video, you really got to see firsthand the sheer brutality of what Putin is doing inside Ukraine. It was very difficult to watch. It was heartbreaking. But it shows you that there's nothing less than genocide going on in Ukraine by Putin and his army. And so as Zelensky made a plea to the United States, to President Biden, he's continued to reiterate that the people of Ukraine just want more tools to be able to defend their country, especially right now to be able to control the sky. And that's why getting these MiGs in immediately is so critical. The longer President Biden waits trying to figure out excuses to not offend Putin, it's costing lives in Ukraine. He's got to make that happen. It's a plea Zelensky continued to make, as well as a plea for other things that I think the American people want to do to give them the tools that they need to defend their country.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that, okay? Again, I'm not saying too much different from Kevin McCarthy, but who knows, maybe. I don't know. Okay, that could be why the vote was so divided, right? That could be a reason why, and why you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and saying that she is actually going to vote for Jim Jordan to be speaker, okay? In fact, you have at least 9 Republicans as of right now that are holding out and saying that they aren't going to vote for Steve Scalise, despite him winning the conference's closed-door nomination. Now, they need 217 votes in order for Scalise to become the speaker. And as of right now, it looks like he doesn't have the votes. And you're not going to see a vote on the floor until the votes are there. So, again, this creates a very, very interesting situation. But regardless, I'm going to show you guys some reactions from some Republicans in regards to Steve Scalise being nominated over Jim Jordan. Take a look.
Mr. Jordan, will you endorse Steve Scalise if he wins the votes today?
I'll support anyone who can get 217 votes. We got to come together.
So it's all about what gets us to single subject spending bills. That's what I'm for. I don't believe we should govern by continuing resolution. And the history that we've seen is that continuing resolutions often beget other continuing resolutions. What Mr. Jordan has proposed, he believes will get us to those single subject spending bills. I think Jim Jordan wants to govern by single subject spending bills. I don't believe he wants to govern by continuing resolution. But how that'll fit together tactically will weigh heavily on my decision.
But you're open.
What did say about that, though, approaching the November 17th?
Yeah, I mean, I heard Leader Scalise really talk about the need to put pressure on the Senate to take up our bills. Steve Scalise has encyclopedic knowledge of what is in the legislation we've passed to fund more than 70% of the government. And he laid out both in this forum and in a meeting earlier today with the Florida delegation how he would put pressure on the Senate to take up those bills. Specifically, Mr. Scalise said that he'd put pressure on them to take up our Department of State and Foreign Operations bill because that's where we've got a lot of money for the Iron Dome. And we think that, the Senate should be financially supporting that Iron Dome, and the best way to do that is to take up our state foreign ops bill.
We'll see at 3 p.m. when I go to the floor.
Well, I think Jim Jordan is the fighter we need to be Speaker of the House right now. Our country's in crisis with our border situation becoming such a grave national security crisis. Jim Jordan, I think, is the guy for the job. There's a lot of concerns right now. Some intel reports saying that we could even have a terrorist attack here at home. And we've already witnessed one in Israel right now, and that's certainly a situation that we're all praying for as we stand with Israel. But we're also, here we are still engaged in Ukraine. This seems to be another foreign war that we're funding their government with no end in sight. While the American people are suffering under crippling inflation and possibly a looming recession with our economy. The Speaker of the House is the hardest job in Congress, one of the hardest jobs in the country, and it's extremely demanding. And it's very personal to me, and I say this with the most compassion. My father died in April of 2021 with cancer, and I like Steve Scalise, and I like him so much that I want to see him be able to put all of his time and energy into defeating cancer. And I say that with just hoping the best for him.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, now again, here are the 9 people that plan to vote against Steve Scalise on the House floor. You have Boebert, Green, Miller, Massey, Luna, Jimenez, Cloud, Nails, and Roy. Now, here's the thing. I think that this really comes down to a couple lines of thought here, right? The first thought is that, well, they just need to get on board with whoever, okay, just somebody different than Kevin McCarthy, and just deal with it because, well, we need to have a speaker, right? The government needs to get up and running so that, we can get back to protecting other people's borders, right? That, to me, seems to be what the argument is that is being made by some of the Republicans, right, that are supporting Scalise, okay? Again, I can't lie to you guys. I really don't like what I'm hearing in regards to the priority. I think that the priority needs to be the American border and the budget, right? And trying to solve this economic problem that we have that is making the lives of Americans much, much, much more difficult, okay? The American people are suffering. And again, to me personally, I'm just not excited to hear the one thing that comes out of somebody's mouth that is going to be the new speaker that's going to lead the Republican Party is where you're talking about somebody else, right? In some other countries, okay? I'm just keeping it 100 with you, okay? I understand the concern for other countries, okay? But I think we need to talk about our country first, right? What's going on over here? And then we can have a conversation about other countries, right? But that's not what I'm hearing from Scalise. Now, again, why they did not select Jim Jordan, I don't know. But like I told you guys before, when it comes to evaluating why these parties do what they do, okay, it probably has something to do with the money, okay? Because Steve Scalise is the top fundraiser in the Republican Party outside of Kevin McCarthy. And then you have Jim Jordan, who's also one of the top fundraisers, but not as much as Steve Scalise. Again, if I had to guess, that's probably what it came down to more than anything. Now, again, if he's marginally better than Kevin McCarthy, if he's actually forcing Democrats to take up, certain bills and initiatives that have been passed by the Republicans in the House, then I guess that's better than Kevin McCarthy, right? If he's actually really trying to force Democrats to enact the conservative agenda, make them take tough votes, right? I guess that's better than McCarthy. But I just personally don't think that much is going to change, okay? I really don't. I'm just keeping it 100 with you guys. Now, again, in regards to Jim Jordan, another reason I would like to see him over Steve Scalise is because Steve Scalise is currently battling cancer. And that position of Speaker of the House is a position that requires a lot of traveling. It's not an easy job. You have to put a lot of energy and effort into it. And I think that he should focus on his health more than being the speaker. Okay. I think that is probably most important right now for him. And, I just don't know if the third person in line to be president. Okay. I mean, we're talking about who's up next, in the case of, the president and the vice president not being able to serve for whatever reason, that would be the Speaker of the House. Again, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with a guy that, has that type of illness, being in that position. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to necessarily hold it against him. I'm just saying, like, what he's saying isn't necessarily inspiring me, on top of the fact that, there's other reasons as well, too, why I think that he might need to focus his time and effort on other things. If I was him, I would be trying to spend time on, focusing on family, doing what I gotta do for my state. I'm not sure if I would necessarily be in the position to be Speaker of the House, but hey, he feels like he can do it, and maybe he's doing it because he thinks that he's the guy that can unite everybody. Maybe he can, right? Maybe he can. But personally, again, I would just much rather see Jim Jordan. Now, with that being said, Republicans cannot go to the floor and have an actual vote without knowing for certain that Steve Scalise is going to be the guy, or whoever, right? If they decide to, change it for whatever reason, I highly doubt it. I don't think there's going to be a floor vote today. And the reason why is, again, because he doesn't have the votes. He's going to have to do some negotiation with the people that are holding out in order to get their votes. And again, I just think more than anything, to help the Republican Party kind of save face, is they can't go to the floor to vote unless they're all on board with whoever they want to be the next speaker. So with that being said, I don't have too much to say about this outside of that. We will see what will happen moving forward. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.